Welcome back to the Stebbins Garage YouTube channel. In today's video, we're still working on the Firebird. We're gonna take care of the fuel pump wiring. I'm gonna take care of the fans. We're gonna run the engine harness, and we're gonna pretty much get all the wiring wrapped up so that we can get our first crank on this. We still have the fuel system to go. You'll see that in the next video, and then we'll be ready for our first fire. I hope you'll stick around. Don't do this if you have any fuel in your tank. This tank was completely dried out, so there's nothing been in it for a year. I think we'll zip tie it right here. That way we don't have to worry about it shifting or anything if it's zip tied right there. Awesome. If you don't cut your zip ties like that, you're an animal. I'm back working on wiring and working on wiring up my fans. So this is gonna have basically a two-stage fan setup. I marked that one, that one 2. The wires from our relay are marked 1 and 2. I'm gonna tidy up all this wiring. So we're gonna put a ground there. We're gonna share a common ground with both fans. And then the power will come there and there, that's the blue. And the black ones are gonna go to ground. So I've already got that kind of wired up. And I've got a butt splice on that. And we're gonna have a screw there. We're gonna clean that off so that it's bare metal. That way we get a good connection. And then I'm gonna put these terminals on here so we can pull those apart if we ever need to take the fans out. We'll just unscrew that for the ground and then unplug the fans, and that'll make that easy. So I'm gonna go ahead and drill all the holes I need to. That hole there that I marked is so that we can put one of my push-ins with the zip tie on it to pull that wire right where we need it. And then we'll have that done. The way these operate is the relay gets ground from the Holly and it turns on one or both. And we can set the fans to turn on at certain temperatures. So we'll go ahead and do that. Then we can actually test it just by applying ground on the wire that should go to the Holly. We'll do all that shortly after I get all this wiring done and tidied up, and I know I'm not gonna set anything on fire. Wiring's complete. I think it looks really good. So like I said, we've got the fan 2, fan 1. Wiring comes across here. There's terminal connections so I can disconnect the positives. And the negatives are all sharing a common ground right there. So pretty much that's good. We're gonna go ahead and test that now and make sure the fans come on 1 and 2. And then we'll be done with that part of it and I can start pulling the engine harness for the Holly. Okay, fingers crossed I don't blow this up. Okay, we're powered on. Fan 1. Yes. Fan 2. Fans 1 and 2. Okay, so I've got both fans successfully working. They basically operate off of those ground triggers. So those will plug into the Holly or connect to the Holly Terminator X, and whenever it sends a signal, those will come on. So that's great. I'm more than happy about that. I never actually thought I was gonna get here, but it's time to go ahead and put this engine harness in. I've got everything labeled. So I think, and I even found the harness that I didn't know I had. This will allow me to turn the fans on and off. We've got a trigger for our fuel pump, etc., etc. So let's go ahead and put this in there. There. All right, well, I've been working on the wiring. I'm gonna tell you I did something really dumb. So, I was looking for the ignition coil harnesses with my Holly, and I've been looking for the last hour, and I can't find them anywhere. Well, come to find out, Holly doesn't include ignition coil harnesses. You have to use the factory ones. So I have the original ones that came on my 5.3, so we're gonna clean those up, but don't be like me and think that you lost something. I hate getting old. Okay, I finished up my harness. Here's the old crusty one. There's the nice flexible one. So we can go ahead and put one of those on, and then I'll work on this other one. I'm not gonna make you watch that again. So I'll just have two here in a minute. More wiring fun. We have pulled the bulkhead fitting off of the firewall. I'm going to go ahead and pull the purple wire and the pink wire. And that's B4 and F4. I don't know which is which. I'd have to look, but those are going to run to the Holly. And rather than run those out the firewall and then all the way back to the Holly, I'm just going to pull them straight across. That'll be a nice clean setup. And so I figured I'd go ahead and pull that off. While I was in here, you can probably see, I did some of you in the comments suggested, instead of doing the starter enable relay bypass the way I had done it, which was jumping the two high voltage wires, to go ahead and just ground the small black and yellow wire. So that's what I did. That's grounded. That should work. We'll test that once I get everything back together. But I'm gonna go ahead and I think you just pull this this blue piece out here, and then you can depin whatever, and then we'll slide it back in. So let me see if that works. Hey, look at there. There's one. This is F4 right here. So we're going to take this again. Let's see what we got. Alright, this is F4 right here. Gonna push that in there, hopefully. And then we've released that pin, then we can hopefully pull this sucker out. There we go. We need to make sure we put our locking tab back in so nothing else goes flying. Oh. Okay, there's our 2 wires. We're going to go ahead and we'll put some terminals on there, and I need to go get some wire. So that one should be our 12 volts for whenever there's an ignition. That one is our cranking, and we're going to send that to the starter. And then I think that's it. There's really only a couple wires that we're even using in this whole bulkhead on the one side. The other side we're using a lot, but guess I'll go ahead and clip those. I probably could have just clipped them and left the terminals in there, but I figured this might be at least a little cleaner. Then I can run the wiring straight off of here. We'll run it over. One goes to the Holly, one goes to the starter, and we'll be one step closer to firing this stupid thing up. Starter enable relay works great. Also got the wiring from that sucker pulled back, and I got 2 pigtails running out here. The red is actually the crank circuit, and then the yellow is going to be my switch 12 volts. Okay, so quick update. I've been working on the wiring for a bit now, and this is my crank wire that I pulled out. I've decided I'm going to actually run it down here from the transmission tunnel because I don't like the way it runs. I mean, it would have to go all the way out here, all the way up, and then down past the header. If I run it through there, I can just run it straight at the starter. So I'm going to do that. Everything else is pretty much plugged in except for a couple of sensors. I have to modify the coil bracket so the number 8 coil fits, and then I've got the O2, the wideband O2 still to hook up on the driver's side, and the injector or the ignition pack to plug in. So I got both the head grounds on. Oh, and I got to plug in the crank sensor, which is behind the starter. I got this little heat shield, debris shield thing. It's an OEM one, so I'm going to put that on. You got to pull the starter to put that on, so we'll go ahead and do that all at the same time. More progress. Our wideband O2 is connected, so the wire goes here. There's a adapter, and I've got that zip tied just out of the way. That runs back up there to our harness. Other side, the passenger side, has a plug in the O2 bung, so we're good there. I got these little shields in. I got everything plugged in upstairs. This is our starter wire. I have a heat shield for that just slips on, so once that comes in, I'll go get that. I got our starter all set up. I'm gonna put some heat wrap on this too, just to protect it. I mean, it's far enough away, it should be fine, but just in case. So everything under here is pretty much ready to go. I still need to finish my wiring, my hoses for my fuel pump, and we'll need to, this is the slave cylinder line. We'll keep that out of the way when we do our first start. All I'm gonna do probably soon is actually crank the engine over, but we'll pull everything out of the way. So we should be ready to crank this thing. You'll see that very shortly. I'm waiting on ATF for our T56. We're gonna go ahead and put oil in this. We're gonna put power steering fluid in, and we should be good to start. I'm not going to put any coolant or anything, but when I do get it started, we're going to run some distilled water just in case there's any issues, and then we'll swap that out for coolant after we get that. I'm also still waiting on a pigtail for the alternator. I've got to wire that in. That'll run off of switch 12 volts. It's a 4-wire to 1. So I got that coming tomorrow, I believe. So we're so close. I mean, I could get in there and crank it over right now. It's killing me not to do it, but I want to wait till all the rest of the stuff is set up. I've still got wiring here to do. I got to hook up the fans to the Holly. I've got a 12 volt that is supposed to be hooked up for the Holly that runs the injectors and the fuel pump turn on. And then that should be it. I'll need to tidy up all my wiring, obviously, put our bulkhead back in. And once I'm sure everything's good, then we'll put the fender back on. I don't want to have to take the fender off or try and work inside the fender. So almost there. One of the things that keeps me up at night is that no oil. This engine's been sitting here for a while and it hasn't fired, so I haven't worried about it. But I have, because I'm scared to death I'm going to start it and not have any oil in it. So I'm going to fix that right now. We're going to dump some oil in it because I'm about ready to start this thing. I still have to hook up the fuel pressure regulator, but tomorrow I'm going to crank this thing over and it needs oil. So let's do that. My starter heat shield wiring stuff for this is the ignition trigger wire for the solenoid. That came in and I went ahead and put that heat wrap stuff on there. It just slides over. So that's good. I think we've got plenty of clearance now for that. It goes up into the car, so should be good there. Keep knocking stuff off the list. My workbench is an absolute mess. But I just got this. It is a alternator plug, which is the correct one we need for the alternator. This will plug in, and then we'll run this yellow wire inside to switch 12 volts. We've got to connect that at the same place that our Holly will get its 12 volt switched. We ran that inside sometime this week. I ran it inside. So we got to run that. I've got some loom to cover that up and make it nice. And we'll get that inside, and then I'm crossing stuff off left and right. My list of 30 things to do before first fire up is now about 8. Fuel pressure regulator is not here, so we're not going to try and fire it, but I do want to crank it over, make sure I got all that wiring set up. So let's see if that works. Push the clutch in. So that's going to do it for this video. I hope that was informative for you and you've seen a ton of progress in the last 15 or 20 minutes. I'm really excited. We're really close to our first start. I hope you'll stick around to see it.